Hey everybody, I've got another science experiment I want you to try at home if you can. We're going to try and grow some mold. And remember, mold is a type of decomposer. And I thought it would be interesting to introduce the idea of growing mold or maybe some bacteria on some bread. And I found this experiment on a website. And I can't remember now what it was. It was a hospital website. And it was kind of talking about the importance of washing our hands. And, you know, in our current situation with the COVID-19 virus, and they want us to really especially be aware of how often you're washing your hands. And so I thought this would be a really good and timely experiment because we're talking about decomposers, but also kind of wanting to demonstrate why it's important to wash your hands. Okay, so the first thing is we need to get some bread. And I've got just my regular sandwich bread that we use. It's Rotel, and we use white bread at my house. And I don't know if it would make a difference if it was whole wheat so that would be an interesting change to this experiment if you've got whole wheat. The experiment also said it would be best if you used homemade bread or bread that you get from a bakery. So I've got these hamburger buns from Hy-Vee, and I'm going to show you how to do it with the Rotel bread. But then I'm going to do it again off camera with the hamburger buns just to see if I get any kind of different results. The reason obviously is because there's some preservatives that are added to the sandwich bread that are not there with homemade bread or with bread from a bakery. So the mold might grow faster. We may be able to see the results a little bit quicker on the bakery bread. So I'll try that on my own off camera. For right now, here's what we're going to do. We want to make sure that we have, first of all, a control. And a control, I've got that written on my baggie right there, control. The control is bread that I've taken out of the baggie, not using my hands at all. And I'm just going to slip it in the sandwich baggie. Again, not holding it, touching it with my hands at all. It's important that we have a control because we want to see what would happen to bread normally. How would it normally develop mold? And so without introducing anything that we're going to do here. Okay, so then that's my control, and I double checked. You are supposed to make sure that your zip is all the way closed on this baggie. Okay, the second piece of bread, I pulled it out using my tongs, and now I'm going to just touch it with my dirty hands. And it's not like I'm purposely trying to be dirty. I thought about putting my hands, like going out and doing some gardening or doing something, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I just want to see what it would look like just after petting my dogs and just kind of living my life. And I also want to use surfaces that I know are probably dirty. So I haven't cleaned my iPad case for a couple weeks. Last time I cleaned it, honestly, I used a Clorox wipe when we were at school to clean that. So I'm just gonna, this seems really strange, but I'm just gonna rub the surface of the iPad case with my bread. And then I thought, as long as I'm at it, let's go ahead and check and see how dirty my laptop case is. And this might get a little bit crummy, but I want to see what happens with the computer keys. And so I'm just going to very gently rub that over my computer keys. And this one I've labeled my baggie dirty, obviously. And so I'm going to drop this one in there. We're not adding any water. We're not adding any other food source because the sugar, the glucose, carbohydrates that are in the bread, that's perfect food for the bacteria and any mold that's going to grow. And then the last one is I'm going to use soap and water to wash my hands. Oops, oh shoot. You know what? Just because I don't want an outlier, I'm going to get another piece of bread. Let me wash my hands with soap and water first. And remember, you want to use warm water, and you're supposed to rub your hands with soap as many times as it takes, or however long it takes you to sing happy birthday twice, right? I think that's what they say. shut the faucet off with my elbow, because if you touch that again, you could introduce microbes or bacteria or something again. And normally, I have a towel down here that I wash my hands, or that I dry my hands off when I need to dry my hands. But for this experiment, I want to make sure there's no other bacteria or microbes that I might be reintroducing to the bread. So I took a paper towel to dry my hands. All right, we'll go in, grab another piece of bread, and I'm not touching it at all. I'm using the tongs. But now I'm going to go ahead and touch it with my clean hands. And so these have been obviously washed with soap and water. And it'll be interesting to see the difference between this and my dirty bread. So I'll put that in here, zip it up, get all the air out of it. And the website suggested then that we take these and we put them in some place where it's cool and it's dark. And so I'm gonna turn the camera here so you can see. I'm gonna put mine in my pantry right there. I think I'm gonna tape them to the inside of the door. And then that way it's dark and it's cool. And I think that's a good place to let that experiment go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the hamburger buns next off camera, and then I'll show you my results next week. All right, see you later. Okay, so I want to show you where I actually put my bread mold. My husband was freaking out a little bit about all my little science experiments all over the place, and he didn't think the pantry was the smartest place to grow mold. And I have to admit, he's probably right. So he agreed that we've got this small bathroom that, since my kids moved out, nobody uses it. So I've got my bread there, and then that's where my worms are. So this will be closed and the lights will be off, and it'll be a great place for me to grow my mold. Right, Scout?